All right, Nick, let's talk about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. It is getting very close to football time. I think things are looking good for Nebraska. In the latest press conference out in Las Vegas with Matt Rule, talking about what this team has to offer and how everything has, kind of settled and what the trajectory of this team is. It sounds really, really good, especially when you compare it to one thing in particular. I think Nebraska fans are going to love this and all the data we got for this one. But before we get into all of that, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, before we get into the data, let's get into what exactly Matt Rule said about Nebraska and about this program in particular. And before you go on the first few things he says, hear everything he says all the way through. I think is, a really interesting comments he has, and I think you're going to love what he has to say. So let's get on into the article. This, of course, over from SI.com. It says, last week at the Big 12 Football Media Day, UCF coach Scott Frost said not to take the wrong job, and he really didn't want to take the Nebraska job. It wasn't a good move. On Tuesday, Matt Rule agreed. He says, I can't talk about his time, but what I can say is it wasn't a good job, Rule said. It was not a good job, but we have made it a good job, and we're about to make it a great job. This will be one of the best jobs in the country. I took it because I believed it had the bones of a great job. I love this next part, Rule said. You know how sometimes you see a beautiful mansion, it's got unbelievably good bones. I saw that there were 5 national championships. I saw that we had the best fan base in football. I saw they were building this new facility. Trev Alberts convinced me the money was going to come. It was the right job for me. And his wife, Julie, knew it too. Rule said she was sitting over there. She told me the day we interviewed, she's like, that's the right job for you because I like to go into a place that needs to be fixed. And fixed, I think he's done a good job so far. We've talked about what Nebraska has brought to the table, what they've been doing, and I think there's a lot of good data as far as the trajectory of this program and where it is going and how everything is looking. And Matt Rule actually goes on to say that he thinks they are about to explode onto the scene. It's going to be their year, whether it's this year or next. They are right on the precipice of something big. And if you don't believe me, let's look at Matt Rule's previous destinations. The last one he was at in the college football realm, a guy known as a turnaround artist, a guy known to take teams and really flip them and get them to where they need to be. His last stop in the college football realm, Baylor. Let's take a look and compare his 3 years at Baylor versus where he is in his program stage at Nebraska. So first up, we got their overall PFF grades here. Nebraska is obviously in red, Baylor's in green. You see the logos there. But year one, where were they at? And this was 2023 for Nebraska. I believe it was like 2017 at Baylor. If I got that wrong, you can correct me in the comments. But year one, 69 overall PFF grade for Baylor. Year one at Nebraska, a little bit better starting point for Rule, 75.1 year one for Nebraska. Let's look at what happened in year two. Big jump for Baylor, a little bit of a jump as well for Nebraska. 80 overall grade for Baylor in year two, 80.9 overall grade for Nebraska in year two. So you can see they're right there. They're on the same trajectory. This is the point of the map where the points actually cross and they, you see them together. And finally, let's look at year three. Not yet had year three for Nebraska. Baylor, 87.1 overall grade. That's fantastic. That's a very high quality team. So I think Nebraska is on that same trajectory. And if you don't believe me, let's look at another metric that everyone loves, winning. What were they doing in the wins department? We see here in our next graph, wins in a season. Baylor, admittedly, like we saw in the PFF grade, was worse year one than Nebraska was for Matt Rule. Year one at Baylor, 1 win, 5 wins year one at Nebraska. Year two, what do they do? Again, like I said, tied again, showing exactly the same trajectory. Year two at Nebraska and year two at Baylor, 7 wins, both programs. What happened in year three? 11 wins at Baylor. He absolutely exploded. They were a really fantastic team. And Matt Rule actually, I think they won 9 in a row that season straight to start it off. So a really awesome season for that Baylor squad. They're able to get a lot of great stuff done, but you can see the trajectory. Things are looking up for Nebraska. Where Rule had stopped, it is same. They don't keep PFF data so far back as to his time at Temple, but same thing for his time as Temple as well. really a great trajectory. You slow year one, light, a little light, a little picking up in year two. You start to see some flashes, and then they burst onto the scene in year three. We've said it time and time again. Matt Rule had a plan. There's a system. He had a thought process of what he wanted to do at Nebraska, and you can see it now through this data. It's coming to fruition the same as it did at the other places he stopped. I think we're about to see a big year for the Cornhuskers. And if I'm a Nebraska fan, I would be very excited about this upcoming season. Curious what your thoughts are on all this, Nick. But before we get to you, Nebraska fans, I'm talking about wins, talk about how good the team's going to be. It's not too early, I think, anymore. Let's hear what you have to say in the comments section below. We're talking wins this year. How many wins do you think the Cornhuskers are going to get? Put it in the comment section below. Document it there first so you can come back, into the season, say, hey, look, I actually called it. I knew this team was going to get, undefeated. We got 13, 15, 17, 100 wins. This is a great team, and I called it in the comment section below. Love to see you down there. But, Nick, nonetheless, enough from me. What are your thoughts on everything here for Nebraska?
So I love the chart you showed, and I love the PFF rankings because very interesting is it perfectly correlates to what ESPN's Football Power Index (FPI) tabulates when it comes to Nebraska. Now, for those who aren't familiar with FPI, it's a very flawed metric because basically it looks at your current roster makeup and the talent on your roster. It completely discounts player development. It completely discounts recruits and transfers, but it's a decent enough metric to kind of look at, okay, where are you at this moment in time? And it's a very successful, I'll say, data point to evaluate team progression over time. So if you go back to 2023, after the 2023 season, ESPN's FPI had Nebraska slated at a 0.8, right? They were not very good, obviously. But after the 2024 season, after last season, at the conclusion, they were ranked a 6.9, right? That's a massive leap. That's obviously very impressive. And now preseason, ESPN's FPI metrics has Nebraska Cornhuskers rated as a 9.3. So they've gone, and essentially since the end of 2023 to the beginning of 2025, we're talking 18, 20 months, about that time frame, from essentially 0, not good at all, to 9.3, which is 8, 9, 10-ish wins. And again, that's discounting player development. That's discounting coaching strategy, tactics, things like that, strength of schedule in terms of what's going to happen this season, how it's all going to shake out, injuries. So from a strictly analytical perspective, roster talent on a good, not great metric, Nebraska is slated to improve massively and has improved massively. And that perfectly corroborates what you showed with the PFF rankings, right? And like you also mentioned, it perfectly corroborates with what Matt Rule did with the Baylor Bears. So you take all these data points and put it together. What I'm trying to say is all roads indicate Nebraska is going to be a lot better than people think this season, because every data point you want to use, every metric, past performance, they're going to be very good this season. PFF grades, they're trending in the right direction, be very good this season. ESPN's FPI trending in the right direction, be very good this season, right? You factor all these data points together, corroborate all this evidence, and what do you find out? Nebraska is going to be pretty good this season. And now when you look at the schedule, look what Nebraska has in front of it. And if I just pull up in front of me, there's some tough games, but you really go down the list here. Cincinnati, that's not great, but you have them at home. That's not super challenging. You get Akron at home, Houston Christian at home. You get Michigan at home. Michigan's going to have a young quarterback. That's a big opportunity there. Michigan State, I like. Go to D.C. for Maryland. Go to Minnesota. Northwestern at home. Then you get USC at home. That's big because you go to UCLA. I'd much rather have to go to UCLA because of the quality of that opponent than having to go to USC. So there's a great opportunity there. And they finish up at Penn State and then home against Iowa. So they have a really kind of tough finish to the schedule. But the way things shake out, I think there's 9, 10 wins here. I think it's very conceivable. I mean, there's a very real scenario where Nebraska's that top 15, top 12, top 18 team down the stretch here vying for a postseason berth. Because who on the schedule do you look at and say, yeah, that's probably going to be a loss? I think going to Happy Valley, Penn State, to be realistic, that's probably a loss. But you go through the rest of these, the fact that you get Michigan at home, I don't hate your chances there. You get USC at home, don't hate your chances there, right? Even Iowa's at home. Now, do you win all those games? Probably not. You probably lose one of those. You probably have a slip up and lose another one, and maybe you finish 9-3 just outside the playoff, or maybe not. Maybe you go 10-2 when you're in the postseason. Maybe you go 11-1. Maybe your only loss is to Penn State and Happy Valley. Right? There's a lot of things that could go right for Nebraska. And when you look at the data, you look at their schedule, and you look at all the facts we mentioned before, you look at what Matt Rule has done historically, I think it's pretty clear they're going to be really good. Things are lining up for Nebraska. They bore the lumps of Raiola being a freshman last season. He's coming in more mature, more developed, offense trending in the right direction. Holgerson doing a lot of good things. Not a perfect team, a lot of flaws. There's still some question marks, but when you take a high-level, holistic approach and look at this Nebraska Cornhusker squad and look at Matt Rule, there's a lot to really like. And I think the future and the near future, the 2025 season, is looking really, really bright for Nebraska.
Yeah, Nick, and just a couple more things to say. I said they don't have PFF data for Temple, but we can go over the wins at his time at Temple as well. Uh, 2013, when he took over, team sucked. They did really bad. They went 2-10 that year. We looked at 2014, year two for them, 6-6. Big improvement, doing really well. We look at 2015, 10-4. They actually started the season out 7-0, and again 2016, 10-3. But interesting point, you bring up Penn State. Matt Rule's actually where his alma mater is, played linebacker at Penn State. In that 2015 season for Temple, first game of the season, open up against Penn State, they'd get the win. Not saying that Nebraska, this is a different Penn State team, but you never know. You never know. Matt Rule is a vendetta, not that, any hatred or animosity towards Penn State, but it's got a little bit on the line as far as wanting to beat the Nittany Lions. So you never know. Maybe he gets this team fired up. They come out hot, get a win over Penn State early. Because, like I said, at Temple in year 3, start out the season 7-0. At Baylor, year 3, they start out the season 9-0. Seems like that year 3 year, really the team starts out hot. They do a lot of really great things. So I don't know what's going to happen for Nebraska, but if history is any indication, Matt Rule in his third year at a program does really, really impressive stuff.